Thank you very much for having me here. I've been having such a good time, and I love your campus. I love the chapel. I love all the colored windows. I think if I were here, I would just sit in there a lot and think. So I'm going to start with a poem that's the last poem in Selling the Hammock. And some of you are in graduate school, so you can appreciate this, that one semester I read everything Toni Morrison had written up until that point. And I'm sure some of you have done that. You just have to read through D.H. Lawrence, read through Toni Morrison. And this poem kind of bubbled out of that experience. So for those of you who have read Toni Morrison, you'll recognize some of it. Jazz is not enough. In a life, undoubtedly, jazz is not enough. Not enough for burnt leftover coffee grounds, not enough to keep the woman upstairs, the woman who lived right over us, that close, and left her man last week. That scream still hangs in the air, and took some of his clothing, he says, and a lock of his hair, though why she'd want that, I don't know. And jazz is not enough to keep the waiters happy. Jazz does nothing for greens and rice, does nothing. What I've got is, I'm on the outside where I've always been, and you're playing me music, man, and it's not enough. You set it up in the TV room, and I had to laugh at that, but it wasn't happiness, you understand. And you started playing the blues, and then Bessie, and you kept playing. It's not enough. But sometimes, while that music is playing, I'll lie down, and you'll hook your legs around my legs, and then it's enough. It's all right, I'll tell you. Your pants over the chair, cream-colored and sassy, and me all river swim clean, and our legs webbed together, our feet laying together like swim fins. And I'll remember the black tunnel we came through, and how, when we came up for air, there was a huge rush of sunlight, and how you smiled, and then the music. And then it's enough, with your legs and my legs mixed up, and the quilt with pieces from so many places I can't remember. I grew up in New England, and one of the things in New England is there's all these old cemeteries, and you can go and you can see gravestones that are there for hundreds of years, and it's both thrilling and depressing. And so there was a cemetery near where I lived. We used to go and hang out there. And beside it, there was a huge pond. And I was always one of the first kids to break through the ice and go swimming in the pond in the spring. The cemetery. I was the first child to swim out to the raft in the crazy spring water. The rest watched me from shore, wet to their ankles. The water wasn't alive with leeches as it would be later, with heat and all of us growing out of summer clothes. Then the leeches would cling to your legs and back. Up on the raft, you'd pick them off one by one, knowing they'd be on you again and again as you descended into the brackish water. The air was tree-sweet, and in the shallows rocks rose and pine needles floated. The raft was makeshift and roped on oil drums. We slipped underneath to talk secrets and peer at people from below, their feet and their legs, them paddling around like so many penguins. Later, too, there would be frogs' eggs and frogs croaking all night. But that morning, it was liquid cold and very quiet. There was the ticking of my first waterproof watch. There was the sun not yet fully risen. There were shadows huddling in the ankles of trees. There was the cemetery looming over the pond, those old gravestones. I wondered if bodies or souls slid down into the oozing water, the black decay I swam in. The water was dreadful, eyes staring up from the bottom. But I was growing finely, and that winter I'd begun to cycle with the moons. The water seemed no more terrible than that. The girls on the shore watched as I walked out, dripping, and we moved into the cemetery, our fingers feeling gravestones for names. The water in my shoes sour and compressed. As we walked, the air grew violent. A new snow was surely coming, and the gravestones would vanish until another thaw. Winter breaks and closes all through New England spring. As I said, I grew up, it was all sort of woodsy and so on. And one of the things that, so I've already got that, while I'm on the subject of us going in swimming, I'll stay on the swimming thing for a minute. But one of the things with the swimming is that people would sneak up on you to watch you swimming. Boys would sneak up on you and watch you swimming. Elizabeth. He's asleep on a rock when it starts. The girls rushing along like wings of barn swallows. He dives under brush, hears them stirring the air with their chat, whine, whistle, sing, and did you know, and did you hear, and is it true? And I'm going in skinny dipping. What if you get caught? And so what? Watch me now. Sneakers hit the ground, pink socks, yellow shorts, white shirt with bananas across it, skin very pale and silk, sunlight all over the girls' faces. The bra first, like balls of sunlight, like the essence of summer, and Peter cannot breathe now. It's just as he imagined, a soft nesting place like a secret cave, and the two girls, wild with summer, lean into the water and each other. So we've been talking at some of my conversations with you this afternoon, and one of the things we've been talking about is AWP. And the first AWP that I went to, and we had a booth and so on, Red Hen did, was New Orleans. And while we were there, we walked around New Orleans a lot at night, and one of our poets would get drunk, and then we'd have to carry him until we could find a cab. And he was always kind of looking for some woman that was going to take care of him for the night. And so that was my first introduction to AWP, was carrying poets around the streets. And so this poem came out of that New Orleans AWP. And it's called Brewer. To escape the bears of winter, he went south, filled his glass with soft amber liquid, sat back, took a drink, smiled. A woman crawled into his lap, asking for more than she gave, swallowing his lips like so many oysters, webbing in his arms like a silkworm. The light changes rapidly. A police flashlight shines in his eyes, and that question from high above him, where are you going? He's been asking himself that for many years, and now this jerk in uniform thinks he's going to spit out the answers of the ages through fuzzy lips. I'm on a powerful journey, he tells the cop, and this woman's going with me to discover her purpose in life. The woman's face is all shadows and loose hair. She clutches amber to her throat. Her words arrive late and jumbled like a cold fish from a reluctant waiter. The cop waves the man on his journey. The man lifts up his hands to bless the cop. He blesses the shadows drifting down the sidewalk, the passers-by, the old city below sea level. In his room alone, he turns on a porn channel and begins to dance. Slowly, fumble-footed at first, then a tango, finally a waltz. So this afternoon we talked a little bit about the poems I'd written for my daughter, or there's a poem here called Daughter and Son that I wrote for my daughter and my son. And I wrote this when they were 8 and 10, and they're now 21 and almost 23. So now I would like to rewrite these, and these poems would start, get a job, wear clothes, use condoms. But anyway, these are the poems I wrote for them then. Daughter. Learn how to fight back. Don't let anyone hit you. Don't let anyone hurt you. Learn how to get away. Learn how to get away quickly. Learn how to leave in the middle of the night. Learn how to leave while he is sleeping. Learn how to take care of yourself. Learn how to take care of your children. Learn how to take care of your brother. Learn how to run. Learn how to look over your shoulder. Learn how to run in the dark. Learn how to swim. Learn how to ride a wild horse. Learn how to sail. Learn how to sail away. Learn how to make your own money. Learn how to save your own money. You will be careful. You will remember all I told you, won't you? Son, be nice to women. Be nice even if they aren't pretty, even if they're fat, ugly, or stupid. Be nice. They will not be nice to you. They will say unkind things behind your back. They will take your money. They will lure you into bed. They will get pregnant. They will marry you. They will have your children. They will take your money. They will fall asleep when you want to make love. They will ask you for things. You will give them things. The children will ask you for things. You will be the giver of things and money. They will talk about you with other women. You will be careful. You will be nice, won't you? Don't know if they took this advice. So one of the things that you think about when you come to California is how many fires there are here. And one of the things I was fascinated with is not just how many fires, but how many fires were deliberately set. So I always tried to think about what it would be like to be an arsonist. Don't worry, I haven't actually tried it, but I'm curious about the life of an arsonist. So this is called direct action. The eucalyptus trees have loose bark, a tangle of branches. Light shifts noiselessly on the dusty bank. The trees move in the wind. The air is hot, thin, dangerous. Buddy slaps down his orange hat by the freeway. All those cars going to the ocean. Last night his wife did not speak to him or move from the couch, her face hard in the blue light. Moths flew into the screen over and over. He heated the rice. His wife wore a green bathrobe. When he spoke to her, she grunted. The air sizzles. He leans toward the eucalyptus tree. You first, he says, snapping the match. The sky way too blue. The people on the freeway too satisfied, rich and cozy in their cars. He will change all that. He sees the first flame, reaching out for the next. So, if he had only gotten laid, this might not have happened. So having read the Bible a lot growing up, I really like certain Bible stories, and I've written quite a few poems based on Bible stories. And one of the ones I was very interested in is Lot's wife. Lot, first of all, was such a great guy that he had to be rescued by angels from Sodom. And he was such a great guy that he was willing to offer up his daughters to sleep with the men of Sodom. So you would not have wanted to be one of Lot's daughters. And of course, after he's living with them in the cave, he got busy with them and had kids with them. So this is somebody who was so great, he had to be rescued by angels. Pillar of salt. I'm in trouble, she says, but he isn't listening. I'm turning into salt. She would remember the soft, whirring air while the heat blazed along behind them. My wife left me, was how he put it. She wouldn't follow simple orders, and I moved in with my daughters. I needed someone to take care of me. His wife dropped his things into the fire one by one. Glass ice, she says, formed all around me. I broke out of my skin, formed a wall around myself in lieu of singing. He doesn't remember her hand stretched out. He doesn't remember her at all. This is another prose poem, and I like prose poetry. This is about a perfect day when I was growing up. Goldenrod. The fields were that full of goldenrod that when you sniffed, it smelled hot and honey like air woven with pollen. And when you got home, Mama was slapping down fish in a pan of frying oil, singing, "Oh, baby, don't you weep, don't you mourn. Pharaoh's army got drowned." And the sunlight shined over her so she squinted and looked pleased to see you for once, but stopped to hit you anyway. It was that sort of day, and the pain didn't last long. You crawled under the stairs, found a piece of chewed gum you'd left for later. Ah, it was that kind of day. Smell of garlic under the stairs, everything perfect. So you just have to gauge happiness differently, you know? So, another prose poem. This is called The Night I Saw Jesus. I met Jesus in disguise at a bar one evening. I recognized him and asked if he'd like to buy me a drink. He shook his head, so I bought myself a screwdriver and gave him my phone number. He just shoved his cowboy hat down over his head and sipped a long-necked Budweiser. The Holiday Inn in Pasadena was an odd place to run into the Son of God, but there was no doubt it was he. I asked the whereabouts of the Heavenly Father and whether or not he's ever said Hail Marys, or did he have a cell phone connecting him directly to the throne room, and if so, what service did he use? Jesus ate some pretzels and slipped off his bar stool onto the floor. I was right by his side when those policemen carried him out. I like that because I think that I always liked the idea when I was growing up that you never know who might be God. This is the poem that Tom was referring to that's called Sphere. So let's do this. You can't imagine the goats who were my only friends as a child. How they tore at my underwear, hitting their heads into my legs, playfully throwing me into the air. How their snores rattled the night. How their milk tasted sweet and thick and altogether wild. How they followed me through the orchard and up into the rocky fields above and ate blueberries through the afternoon. How at twilight I'd walk down, a hand on two goats' backs, and they'd talk me all the way down. How many times I was beaten about the face and shoulders and back. How the goat smell kept me from properly experiencing food. How I crept out to the goats in the night and slept very well there, the goats licking my bruises as though I were sacred and wounded and divine. So I'm going to switch to some newer poems. And this is from a book called The Goldilocks Zone. And the idea of the Goldilocks Zone is that scientists who are looking for life in space are not just out there looking for odd little planets or odd little people floating around, but they're actually looking for are planets that are in the Goldilocks Zone, which means they're not too hot, not too cold. They could sustain life. And I really like this whole concept because I like the idea that the ideal planet for human life would be in a place called the Goldilocks Zone, but that in an actual life, at least in my opinion, in an actual life, you would not want to live in the Goldilocks Zone. You don't want to live somewhere where it's not too hot and not too cold. You want to live somewhere that it's epic. It's amazing, it's crazy, it's freezing, it's boiling. Something amazing is happening. You feel like your whole life's on fire. So I think a lot about that whole idea, though, of how humans thrive on adventure and challenge, but we gravitate towards some sort of Goldilocks zone. So that's what this poem is playing with. Tracks in the snow, blurring air, somebody's coming, you're not that somebody. The children say they come from a crazy family. They don't know the half of it. What we wanted was to find that hole in the sky, that hole that would lead through the tunnel to the cave where light was built. Fireworks, sun flares, comets, lava, intense light comes from that cave. We wanted to avoid the Goldilocks zone, everything lukewarm, where you don't know bliss when it's right in front of you, from man to woman to life. You're in a hotel, surfing for a good movie. The Shining comes on. You keep going in case there's something else out there in the cold ether, a musical maybe. Happiness isn't something you stumble into. It's the intersection between light and water. We've been there. Indeed, we've been there. We just didn't know it at the time. We thought we were in the Goldilocks zone. So I like the idea that sometimes we don't recognize happiness when it's right in front of us. You see it when you look back. And you see it when you look at somebody else, but maybe we don't recognize our own happiness. So one of the people in history that I was always fascinated with was Lou Andreas Salome. She had basically 3 lovers, not all at the same time, but quite often 2 of them at the same time. Her 3 lovers were Freud, Nietzsche, and Rilke. So she was one busy lady. She loved Rainier Maria Rilke, 15 years her junior, taught him Russian love, asked his skin what it wanted, held him until he wanted her for his wife, then left. Lou Andreas Salome, lover of 3 geniuses. They wanted her as muse, as bedfellow bridge to the future, all 3 of them, Freud, Nietzsche, Rilke. Her name was Lou when Freud knew her, when Nietzsche kissed her lips till his sister forbade it. Rilke's marriage to Clara lasted a year, Ruth born. The rest of his life, affairs, writing of alienation, loneliness, and castles throughout Europe. Dying, he called for Lou, lying in twilight at the Valmont Sanitarium in Switzerland of leukemia. As the day disappeared, he was sure he could see her emerging into the bedroom, her hair, smell, ruddy thighs, there to hold him against loneliness, himself rising naked to greet her, and she, kindness against sheets, a kiss against darkness. So he actually died of being stabbed by a rose. And that's really, really poetic. That's probably how I'll die, too. So, on the subject of biblical stories, we'll see if you all recognize this story. This is called Glass Eye. Joe, missing an eye in the socket of his skin against pale, didn't see the blowtorch coming. There's always a blowtorch. Sometimes it looks like tomorrow, inevitable noise, dusk, darkness. It's the darkness that's turbulent for Joe as he foots it to the store between lamps. Building is what he taught the boys. Their mother taught the girls the uses of water. Acorns fell on the front step. Joe's son makes claims, goes off to be a rock star. From Joe's point of view, the sky has visibly darkened the day his son is killed. The glass eye beside the bed reflects sunlight, gathers it. His son's fans collect pieces of stories. When they write them down, the glass eye is left out. It's all water walking and wings. Joe's favorite stories, like the ones where his son slept with the rabbi's daughter, completely omitted. His mother misses the one where he trained the dog to walk backward. She misses how he loved his father's glass eye. She hates the tales of miracles. Why, the friends say? Everyone loves miracles. If he could do miracles, why does my Joe have a glass eye? Why did my son have to die? Because of sin, his friend Peter says. When did you think that up? Just now, he says, watching Joe spit on that glass eye like I've seen 100 times, I thought of sin and its uses. Sin has got to be the main point, Peter says, and Joe pops in the glass eye, which rolls a bit, finally settles. This book, the book that I've been reading from, Goldilocks Zone, is about 4 inventions that changed history. And the inventions were glass, fireworks, condoms, and bridges. So this one is about fireworks. And it starts with a quote from the book on fireworks, which says, "Do not assume that making fireworks is like making bread or pastry. You can have all the right ingredients: sulfur, black powder, potassium nitrate, dextrine. For special effects, You'll need titanium for silver sparks, aluminum for white flames, barium for green, lithium for red, copper chloride for blue. The order is important. Anyone can get married, have children. Millions have done it. I did too. Notice the difficulties my own parents had caused them to abandon my sister and me just out of diapers, but I was pretty sure I was smarter at marrying, at parenting. The problem with homemade fireworks is that many people put the right ingredients together in the wrong order, thus blowing off hands or scarring faces. Nearly 10,000 people a year hospitalized for fireworks injuries, usually around 4th of July. The divorce rate in the U.S. continued to climb during the last half of the 20th century. I am on a second marriage. Friends on third or fourth spouse married now to the person they could have met in their 20s but needed their first spouse to appreciate. Of people damaged by fireworks, most are men. Women less likely to handle gunpowder, blow off hands and faces. Women on July 4th, after potato salad, corn on the cob, hot dogs, buns, all the condiments, they all go birds and bees. They're naturalists. My friend who just married his fourth spouse says he's found his soulmate. He couldn't have met her when he was 20. Her parents didn't meet until 5 years later. She'll survive this, I'm sure. She's in Paris now, studying the Eiffel Tower. I didn't know a thing about raising kids. As it turned out, they were willing to advise. Normal parents buy pizza once a week, they'd say. Allowances are given bi-weekly. Too much discipline, we'll need therapy. Hey, we're just trying to save you money. Young pyros don't usually take advice from pros. They want to capture something. You put your hand through fire, a plane shoots through fireworks, there's nothing physical there. Heat you hardly remember. It's like dreams. You can't loot dreams. Family and fireworks go together in America. The most American of holidays, the family picnic in the park, the anthem is all about rockets bursting in air, fireworks become the smell of gunpowder, memories of light, explosions. I was never sure about families. In the beginning, I thought it was people who leave you, people you can't trust. If you try to hold light, it doesn't exist. You have to put together ingredients in the right order. Hope they'll float down around you like stars. Okay, for those of you who like to count, I have 4 more poems, and then I am open to taking questions. So this one is called Christian Hookers, and starts with a quote. Most of you who have read the Bible will recognize from 1 Corinthians 13:3, though I bestow all my goods to feed the poor, and though I give my body to be burned and have not charity, it profiteth me nothing. Teetering next to the Texas long neck beer is a bowl of chips old man Fish is sharing with his buddy Zone. Fish and Zone have been out of work 8 months, crawling back and forth between the skin of potatoes and bags of old rice. But tonight, Fish got some money from his aunt, and he's sharing it with Zone. Got a surprise for you, Fish, Zone says. Couple of hookers waiting for us at the motel. That's so, Fish says. No, but it's a thought that counts. Got the condoms, though, just in case hookers drop out of the sky. That would be mighty Christian of him, Fish says. Mighty Christian, Zone agrees. So everyone has their own definition of Christianity. One of the stories in the Bible that I liked very much growing up, that I was completely fascinated with, because I had a strong sense of geography, was the 40 years that the children of Israel spent wandering around the desert. Now, that distance that they wandered is actually less than the distance from San Diego to Los Angeles. So I spent a lot of time thinking about that 40 years. Did they get lost? Did they need a map? Did they need a flashlight? What went wrong? 40 years. It's a small space. You can look at it on a map. I mean, think about the fact that it took about 3 months for the covered wagons to get across the United States. Some of them took 4 months, right? That's 3,000 miles. So the Sinai, again, small. It's called fields. Sorry. Crossing the Sinai Peninsula entering Canaan after 40 years, a distance less than the stretch of miles from San Diego to Los Angeles, crossed on foot by the Jimenez family in 10 days. Papa Jimenez carried Clara on his shoulders. They sought farm work. The Israelites expected to work in the fields, were guided by a pillar of cloud by day, a pillar of fire by night. The Jimenez family found guidance from a AAA map purchased at a Unical station near the border, a blue flashlight. They ate corn tortillas, missed pupusas and sopa. The Israelites ate manna and quail, longed for garlic and onions. The Hebrews died in Sinai. Their children entered Canaan. The Jimenez parents died in trailers by the Ventura fields. Their children went to community college, opened a bakery. The children of Israel wander between San Diego and Los Angeles. They approach Gelson's, the strawberries fresh, the meat kosher. The Jimenez family attend Mass, eat blessed bread, drink wine. One more poem with a biblical quote, another Bible story that I was quite interested in growing up. And this is called Gender Differences According to the Bible. And the quote is, "Then shall the kingdom of heaven be likened unto 10 virgins, which took their lamps and went forth to meet the bridegroom. 5 were wise, 5 were foolish." So for those of you who didn't read this, this bridegroom is waiting for his women, and there's 10 of them, and 5 of them run out of lamp oil. So they don't get to wait to meet him. It's kind of sad for them. Some ran out of lubricant. No, I mean oil. Didn't get to be one of the main virgins. Only 5 had enough. Lucky bridegroom lines up his virgins, sets off fireworks in the bedroom. Heaven for men. Women waiting eagerly with lamps for him to appear. In women's heaven, a long line of James Bonds waits until midnight for our arrival. Not a virgin among them. Each of them highly skilled lovers, masseuses, chefs, dancers, kissers, bartenders, comedians, and of course they're acrobats. Fundamental difference between the sexes. It's all right there in the Bible. We require skill. Men are fine with the layabout. When we say kiss me, by God, you better know how. Women are always very pleased with this. So this last one is called Casanova. Casanova lived from 1725 to 1798. And obviously there's many stories about him. But they're all based on the stories he wrote about himself during the last part of his life. He wrote out tales and tales of what his life was like, and based on those we have the sort of myth of Casanova. So Prince Deligny, with whom he lived during the last part of his life, said, at 73, no longer a god in the garden or a satyr in the forest, he is a wolf at the table. This window is the one he climbed out to escape his second arrest by the Inquisition. No glass, just an open space, curtain over it. There were bars. He escaped twice. Son of Italian performers, early ambition to be a priest, thrown out of seminary, decided to travel, visit all the capital cities, be expelled from them one by one. We see him lolling on beds, linen strewn, serving girl astride, dog barking down below, clothes on the mirror, smell of semen, chamber pot in the corner. We see him with ladies, maids, duchesses. Hear cries of ecstasy. Casanova liked condoms made from lamb intestines or linen condoms tied off with a ribbon. Casanova fought duel after duel, carried off without a scratch, many near misses at the altar. Casanova's coach, always just in time. Last 14 years of his life, corner of Bohemia, Chateau d'Ux, Casanova worked as a librarian, wrote his memoirs, spooled out his exploits, the twins who seduced him. Nin, Colette, Casanova captured something. Reveal what you wish. It's your story. Tell the story they want to hear. Story of desire, story of passion. I am starting my diary. I am the greatest lover of the 21st century. Men who sleep with me never recover, nor do women. They are all of them mad. I am Aphrodite of the modern world. Music precedes me. Stories follow me. Give me 14 years at the Chateau Ducks. My name will be synonymous with pleasure. Thank you.